Destructuring, spread, and rest are operators in JavaScript which are very useful when working with objects and arrays. Let's start with destructuring, which provides us a convenient way to extract values from objects and arrays and assign them to variables. Let's say we have this object person which has a name, age, and also city properties. If we now want to access its properties, let's say we want to access person.name, we can access it with this dot notation, and then we can maybe access another property like age on this person. But if we are going to repeat this many times in our code, let's say we are going to use the same name property throughout our code many times, it's better to assign it to variable and then reuse it, and we can do it by assigning a variable to this, but there is a better way to do that, and that's with destructuring. With destructuring, you can use curly braces on the left side to specify the properties you need to extract, and on the right side you specify the object, which can be person here. And now here inside of these brackets, we can specify the variable names on the left, and these should match the property names in the object, meaning if we want to assign a variable for the name property, we need to name this as name because that's what we have also in the person. And if we want to extract the age property, we also need to name the variable as age. And by doing this, we now destructured the name and age from this person and we assigned them to variables which we can use throughout our code. Now if we console log the name and age, you can see that we have the name stored inside of the name variable and we also have the age stored inside of the age variable. And this destructuring also works on arrays. Let's say we have this example array here. We can also extract elements from this array and assign them to variables. The simple way that we can do this is by assigning a variable to this, let's say first fruit, and we can assign this to be fruits 0, which is the first item, and that is the apple fruit in here. But we can do this same thing with destructuring. We can assign square brackets on the left side and the array name on the right side. And here, unlike the object, the naming isn't very crucial. As you saw here, we should name this to match exactly the property that we have in the object. But here we can name it whatever we want. We can say first fruit here, for example, and we can say second fruit for the second one. And this will extract the apple and store it inside of the first fruit, and this will extract the banana and it will store inside of the second variable. And we can verify that by console logging the first one and also the second one. You can see that we have apple in the first one and in the second one we have banana. Now this second case is useful when you don't have too many items in the array. So usually when you have 2 to 3 items in the array, you can use the destructuring method to destructure the items from that array. Now let's have a look at the spread and rest operators, which both use the same syntax, but they have different purposes depending on the context that we use them. Let's say we have this example object which contains the defaults for products like the color and also the size. So if you don't assign anything, then it will be blue and the size will be medium. And now we want to create a product object and we want to set the default values if they are not assigned, and we also want to add some more properties to it. We can use the spread operator in this case to copy all of these values inside of the product and also add additional properties. And we do that by using the 3 dots and then specifying the object name that we want to spread here, which is the defaults. And after this, we can start adding more properties to it, like we can set the price to be 10 and we can set the name to be t-shirt and so on. And what this does, if we console log the product here, you can see that we have our assigned price and name at the end of this object, but we also have the color and size, which was spread from these defaults, which means that we basically copied these properties and we paste it here. So that's the exact equivalent of using the spread operator, but we do it with 3 dots and using the defaults because this can be a bigger object and we don't want to manually copy and paste all of the properties here. So we do that by using the spread operator. The spread operator also works on arrays. For instance, if we have an array of numbers and now we want to create another array which will contain all of the items from this first array plus some additional items, we can create another variable, let's name this more numbers. And here if we want to have that same items plus the additional 4th and 5th item, we can use the spread operator on this array, and instead of copy pasting this, we can use the spread operator and spread the numbers from the first array inside of this second array. And now if we console log that more numbers, you can see that we have that additional 4 and 5th items, as well as the original items that we had in the numbers array. And that's how you can use them on objects and also on arrays. But what about the rest operator, which looks exactly the same as this spread operator? Rest operator is used in function parameters. Let's say we have a function which will be responsible for summing the numbers that you provide in the arguments. So here we will have the arguments, and then after that we will have the function body. And if we know the argument numbers that we will have, let's say we will only have 2 arguments here, a and b, we can return a plus b in that case. But what if we don't know how many arguments we will have and we want this to work dynamically? In that case, we can use the rest operator, which means that we will spread the numbers that we are getting as arguments. And inside of the body, we can first define the total, which will be the total sum of these numbers. And initially it will be 0. Then we can loop through these numbers by using the for each method. And for each number here, we will increment the total by doing total plus equals the number, which will be the provided argument. And then we can basically return the total, which will be the sum of all of these numbers. And this means that now we can use sum in different ways. We can use sum for 2 numbers like 1 and 2. And let's console log this. You can see for these 2 numbers it returns the sum, which is 3, but now we can provide additional arguments, like we can add 3 to this and it will also calculate the sum of this one and it will be 6. And we can continue adding as many numbers here as we want, and it will just take all of that numbers here and then we can perform some operations with it. And that's how we use the rest operator on functions.